Gamecock Nation, I need you to drop everything and listen up. Do you believe? Do you believe in the Norris Sellers? Do you believe in the college football playoff? Do you believe that hope is still alive? Well, you should, because if 16 is number one in your hearts and the number one reason why you win the Palmetto Bowl. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered's postgame show. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, breaking down everything that we saw in Death Valley as the Cardiac Cocks stay alive for one more week. 17-14 final score. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification, and of course, smash that subscribe button, because this is your number one source for all things college football moving forward. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Make sure that you follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave Shumate at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson. I can't get the smile off my face. And make sure you check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This postgame show is brought to you by our friends over at Roback. Rivalry week is the number one thing on your mind, but right afterwards should be the holiday season. And what better gift to give somebody in your life than a Roback pullover, a Roback hoodie, a Roback fleece, whatever you see fit. And you can do so by going to Roback.com and use the promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. 20% off when you go to Roback. Tell them that the fine folks at SEC Unfiltered sent you. What a game. What a performance. The kids from Columbia refuse to die. The Cardiac Cocks stick around for one more performance. Game, set, match. And in the great words of Chris Phillips that I have never said before, because if I try to be as coherently calm as possible, say it together with me, Gamecock Nation. Fuck Clemson. Welcome on into the show. This is how we're getting started, and it ain't slowing down anytime soon. Dave, what a game. What an absolute game.
That was a very fun game. I mean, it is Lenore Sellers, you got to keep saying it, is the most improved player from week one to now.
Not even a remotely close
I mean,
one.
The SEC, and I think even the country now. I mean, I think you can legitimately say it in the country. Dude, his ability to just improvise and just, I mean, take total game-changing negative plays away and turning them into 15 to 20-yard gains. I mean, it's almost Tim Tebow. I'm not comparing him to Tim Tebow. Don't get me wrong. Now, he's not there yet. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. But it's some of these runs are Tim Tebow-ish. It's like, good God, just willing. I mean, the 3rd and 18 for the lead. I mean, you just don't see that a lot. I mean, never slides, which I like. I think it's a part of his game. I mean, the offense just rolls through Sellers, rolls through Rocket Sanders when he's healthy. Just a phenomenal. I mean, again, the point total ain't going to show you a lot, but man, Lenore Sellers' ability to get them out of negative plays is something. I should say we hadn't seen that of a player in a while. Just in this perspective, though, it's almost like you see some elusiveness, and he has that, but it's almost like elusive power where you're just like, I mean, dude, the first guy, I don't care if it's a 310-pound defensive lineman, 330-pound, like you're just not getting him down because his low. I tweeted about it during the game. His lower body core are just so strong. He just has a really good base. Defense making a play. I mean, that game couldn't have ended better for South Carolina's season to finish 9-3 than the defense getting the big play, because you feel like, at least for the first 3 quarters of the season, the defense led the way for that team until the offense kind of started to fill themselves out and get comfortable in determining what their identity wanted to be. And as we saw at the end of the year.
I think Dave froze on us, but you know what? Who cares? We're going to figure it out in a minute. Dave, when he gets back on, what a performance. I mean, simply what a performance. You go back to the start of the season and tell yourself how you looked in week 1, how that performance was against Old Dominion. That team was unpolished. They were fixated on too many mental mistakes. And then they go and they play efficient football consistently on the road at Lexington. They dominate. You see the growth. You see the determination. You see the Mazio Bennett. You see what Rocket Sanders can be. You see what this team can have. And then you go play against LSU. And the 17-0 point swing that unfortunately you're unable to go ahead and capitalize. You're unable to go ahead and get back to your winning ways. Whatever it was, at this point, we get it. We understand. You look at that game. We can all agree Nick Emanwari, his inability to be able to get to the end zone because of an egregious play call. I've stood this ground. Many of you have stood this ground. If you just get that playoff, watch what happens. But in that moment, go back to that game. There was a switch that turned on. There was a moment that said, we're not going to be here again. We're never going to put ourselves in this situation. We're never going to find ourselves trailing and wondering what could have been. We're going to dominate. And you know what? The second half against Alabama, they did. In the second half of that performance, the way that they were able to capitalize, they get the Beamer ball, they find a way to get special teams to be a special moment, and you're a 2-point conversion away from guaranteeing a victory in Tuscaloosa. And now we're talking about 10-2. You carry that momentum when you play against Texas A&M. Dominate, leave no doubt. Rocket Sanders blasting on off. Lenore Sellers showing you why he is the future of this team. Then you go and you play against Missouri, and it is a 4-quarter performance. But at the end of the day, guess what happens? You come out strong, a shovel pass to number 5, number 1 in your hearts. And now you got the momentum. Now you know that you can beat anybody in the country, and it carries on over. And this was not a great game plan. I'm going to be the first to say it. You want to talk about overall performances? And by the way, we have over about 1,500 people watching right now. So do me a favor. Make sure that you like this video, hit that ring notification, and follow us on the socials, and hit subscribe down below. It's a bad game plan at the beginning of the game. You watch as this team is unable to kind of get out of their own way. Great execution, I think, from Dabo Swinney. The defense for Clemson stepped on up. They played a phenomenal performance against the run. They took away the element of Rocket Sanders. They took away the element of Lenore Sellers. And then you get the big interception in the third quarter. You watch as those countless careless penalties find a way to put you behind the sticks. Welcome back in, Dave Shumate. We're glad to have you here.
Hey, that's why you don't travel in the holidays. Your in-laws' power goes out. Wi-Fi's got to get rebooted. So I'm back on. I guess it's just the electricity in this live stream just busted the Wi-Fi here.
Listen, man, I'm telling you right now, this is going to be one of our most streamed live streams that we had in a while. Again, hit that subscribe button down below. This game, you're unable to get into the consistency on the ground, but yet you get a crease. You get an opening. And sometimes that's all you need is one quick play, one small move that puts you into a separation, puts you in a position to where you can pull away. And Kate Klubnik did so. And then Lenore Sellers said, all right, let's get back to work. We're going to respond. Then you come out of halftime. You watch as your defense finally gets settled in. They don't allow too many explosive plays. Then you watch as Kate Klubnik finds his way into the end zone again, utilizing his legs. He has been a very underrated player all year. Anybody that's in the chat right now, I understand you're South Carolina, loud and proud, but Kate Klubnik played his ass off today, and more importantly, he was the reason why both these teams had success. The quarterbacks were the defense, and the defense really did deliver on multiple instances. But you watch as this team refuses to die. Here's when you knew that things were going to turn the corner, Dave, for me specifically. You go back and you watch as that penalty, the late hit on Simpkins.
Yeah.
You watch the way that he did. They get the interception. Pass for Nick Harbor. RJ Mickens picks it off. At that point, you watch as he says, nope, I'm going to go back out there and I'm not going to lose the game this way. If we're going to lose on a faction to where we know that we did everything possible. It was in that moment, much like after that LSU game, South Carolina turned the corner and said, we will not put ourselves in this position again. Lenore Sellers did the exact same thing. He was the embodiment of what this season was all year. Truly. We know that we're down. We're not out of the count. We're not going to make that same mistake again. And we don't care how we have to play. We are going to guarantee ourselves in the prime position to be able to capitalize, pull away, and put ourselves in the running for a 9-3 finish.
Here you go, Bear. DraftKings currently has the Gamecocks 10th best odds to not just make the playoffs, but to win the national championship right now.
What a performance, man.
Moved up.
What a performance. I think that what's really interesting about this game is that, yes, both of these teams had their struggles, but you watched as leaders stepped on up at the prime time position. You watched as a guy like Rocket Sanders, he fumbles the football, then is able to go ahead and pile drive forward for a first down. He refuses to let Clemson's defensive line beat him at the line of scrimmage. You watch as Lenore Sellers throws an interception. You want to what? Next play? Fine. I'm going to tuck and run. I'm going to carry my team on my back. I'm going to put us at least in field goal range. Alex Herrera gets a big-time 42-yard boot. Then you watch as Terrence Knighton. He gave up a big-time play in the second quarter to allow Kate Klubnik to run forward for a couple of big-time yards. You also watch as they were able to get a big-time run from Phil Maffa. Guess what? He's the one coming up with the interception on the Phil Maffa drop. And so all this aside, leaders stepped on up. There was no doubt about this team. They delivered a performance to where you can sit there and be proud of. There's a lot to clean up, but you know what? It's rivalry weekend. At the end of the day, just prove that you're the better team. Prove that you have bragging rights. And more importantly, if you are a South Carolina fan, just know this. Regardless of what is in and out of your control, folks, you run the state. You run it at this point. More importantly, you showed yourself absolutely this team is built to be successful moving forward. So long as you have Lenore Sellers as your starting quarterback and the grit and determination of Shane Beamer to rally the troops.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine if the dude had some weapons on the outside.
And they're going to they're going to. They're going to.
They legitimately got some weapons to help him on the outside. And obviously, it's still the offensive line. I think Clemson's offensive line was a little bit better today than South Carolina's. That's something that you could build around him, too. If you could get him some extra time to stay in that pocket, some weapons around him. Yeah, I'm with you. And again, I've been one all year. I don't really think he fits exactly what Dow Loggins wants to do. I think they both
you can see that too.
But imagine if they can tweak that up a little bit. Again, nothing's happened to Dow Loggins this year, but I do think if they can continue to play to his strengths, it'd be interesting to see how much they would want to actually run him more on design stuff. But no, I mean, yeah, hell of a performance like you were mentioning when I came back in. Cade Klubnik played well overall. That was a good fun game. That was a fun game. That was a fun game. We're off a wild start just in the brunch session.
I think we have to give a lot of credit to what Clemson is, and I'm going to be completely real because there are some Clemson people that are going to be watching this video either for hate watch or just to call us out for something. If Clemson is somehow able to get the ACC title game, I'm not doubting them. I love what I saw from the maturity of Bryant Wesco. I love what I saw from TJ Moore. Phil Maffa has proven he can be a very quality running back. The offensive line did a really good job eliminating Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart, Tonka Hemingway. There were a couple of big-time plays that you were able to capitalize on, like the fumble recovery by Tonka Hemingway on the backwards pass. But still, this is a very good Clemson team that you got to give a lot of credit to, which on the flip side is why you got to give a lot of credit to South Carolina, because not only did they hold around, but they were able to create opportunities for the offense to get a second attempt, for the offense to be able to put themselves in a great situation, for the offense to be able to capitalize and put up some points. Regardless of how you feel about this overall Clemson team, the rivalry, whatever it is, this is a very solid Clemson team to where you look at South Carolina, the fact that they were able to come back, deliver a performance to remember, that's enough to where I think the College Football Playoff Committee is going to put in consideration, hey, if somehow, some way Clemson does win the ACC, we have to take into consideration what South Carolina did on Saturday in the Palmetto Bowl.
Yeah, I'm saying that, and it's the best thing that could happen to South Carolina. You know what else could be the best thing? Is if A&M could win their next two.
Yep.
That would only amplify you beating the SEC champs by multiple
20 points.
By double digits. Yeah, and controlling that whole game. So, again, you're a big Texas A&M. I mean, I don't think it's a must-have. I mean, obviously, there's bigger games they need to happen to get, like, Auburn potentially winning. I mean, they would love a massive Purdue Boilermaker upset over Indiana, stuff like that more so. That A&M one would just only enhance the resume. But you're right, Clemson going to win the ACC, I thought that was something a couple of weeks ago was a domino. It needed to fall. I mean, think about it. The double whammy. You got the win over them, and they somehow could, if SMU could drop one today, that'd be massive. I mean, that would just be
Either way, I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, think about this, Dave, for a minute. In every sense, Clemson actually was able to beat up on South Carolina. Who had more passing yards? Clemson. Who had more total yards? South Carolina. Who had fewer turnovers? Clemson. Who had more first downs? Clemson. Who averaged more yards per pass attempt? Clemson.
Yeah.
Who averaged more yards per run? South Carolina, but only by a little bit. Who had fewer penalties? Clemson. Who had fewer fumbles? Clemson. Who won time possession? South Carolina, but it was barely a 50-50 performance. It came down to making the critical mistakes at the wrong time. You're driving. Let's go back to the very beginning of the game. Lenore Sellers, you're driving. That's at least 3 points off the board when he fumbles the football. How about when you talk about a guy how about you talk about the fourth down play by Clemson? They could have easily just taken the points and it would have been tied 17-17, but they went for it on 4th and 2. Incredible stop by the defensive line to be able to put themselves in a great situation. How about when you look at the way that this team was able to come back and they fumble the football? Phil Maffa in the 30-yard line, the interception, and then at the very end, a pick by Cade Klubnik off a batted pass from Phil Maffa to land the hand of Terrence Knighton. I mean, the way that the turnovers happened, it came at critical moments in the game. And unfortunately, with less than 20 seconds left, it just struck midnight for Clemson in this performance. That's a takeaway. And the fact that even with the performance that you saw from Clemson, you were able to put yourself in a great position. when you heard the broadcast afterwards, Shane Beamer saying that this kid is the number one player in college football. I disagree that he is the number one player in college football right now. What I will say is he is the most dangerous player in college football right now, because there is no way to stop a 242-pound, 6'3" running back with an arm for a cannon of an arm that can easily pile drive it in and put you in a position to where there's nothing you can do about it. And I'll tell you what, going into next year, he should be a favorite to win the Heisman. He should be a favorite to lead his team at least into the conversation of an SEC title berth. He has all the skills that you want in a quarterback that can deliver a performance to remember. And it's not just one with a 9-3 finish. It is one with incredible upside. You got to build around him. But I'll tell you what, both these quarterbacks are put in a great situation. He is going to be able to only build off of this, especially if they can build around him.
No, I agree. This league is a lot of young, good quarterbacks. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You got DJ Lagway over there. I think Nico's only going to continue to get into his own, but down the stretch, Lenore Sellers has made more plays than Nico. And I think Nico's had better receivers around him, probably a little bit better protection too. So that's saying a lot about Lenore Sellers getting South Carolina out of some of these potential negative situations and not even just getting back to the line of scrimmage and or even 4 yards. I mean, busting for explosive plays. I mean, it is ridiculous. It is a little Cam Newton-ish. Like, I'm not going there yet because that's an all-time great player. But you do see flashes of that sometimes. But no, I mean, the league, you're excited about the overall league and their ability. I mean, I think Alabama's going to have another kid coming in, the Russell kid. That'll be really good. But you're seeing quarterbacks start to play at a higher level when they're younger now just because they've been doing it for so long with all these trainers.
You need to be able to win with depth and with quarterback play if you want to make a run for the college football playoff. South Carolina has one of those locked up. It's the quarterback, honestly. And the fact of the matter is that regardless of how the game went, they had 3 turnovers, 2 egregious penalties, 2 personal fouls that never should have happened, without a doubt. And they found a way to win a football game. They have the pieces there to at least make the case to put themselves in the conversation for a college football playoff. They at least have the potential to have the conversation of making a run. And I'll tell you what, much like I said with Ole Miss, this is one of the most dangerous teams in college football. They may not have their shot, but it's out of their control. They did their part today, and they made sure that they left no doubt, left no questions asked. If you're putting in a 9-3 team, and somehow, some way, Texas A&M wins the SEC, and somehow, some way, Miami loses today and Clemson gets to go to the ACC title and they beat SMU. Those are 2 wins that you can almost promise look great for the resume because of how you won the football games. Domination in Willie B, the most, in my opinion, underrated atmosphere in college football, and then to be able to go on the road. Another 4th win on the road. That looks great for you.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. See some fans talking about the A&M one. That only enhances your resume. I understand A&M would take a spot, but I also think that could help South Carolina leapfrog somebody is what I'm saying.
Oh, they absolutely can.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Obviously, A&M gets a spot by the champion, but that totally increases your chances of winning, of getting bumped up or going ahead of somebody with that win. I mean, you have a double-digit win over a conference champion. I mean, 2 potentially if Clemson were to win.
You'd have 2 if you have Clemson win. And again, like, this is the thing. It's out of their control. The bottom line is that South Carolina left no doubt because they were going to be at 0%. And nobody could sit here and argue it. Nobody could sit here and say, well, you played really close against a Clemson squad, but you have 4 losses. No. Regardless of how you feel about this team, regardless about how you feel of the direction of this team, they're not going to the playoff when you have 4 losses. It's just impossible. No shot whatsoever. But if you do get that win, now you put yourself in a good position. 39% chance. A lot of things are out of their control. But Dave, you got to remember, this game is absolutely one of those games that you look back and say, we did our job. We left no doubt. We've been playing the best version of football. And the committee has to take that into consideration just a little bit. I'm not saying that they have to go ahead and guarantee them a spot in the postseason. What I am saying is that if you were looking for one of the 12 best teams down the stretch from week 4 on, we have not seen South Carolina break. We've watched them bent. They weren't able to get the job done in Tuscaloosa, but we haven't seen them break. They've been able to stay the course. They're a flag away against LSU from putting them in a college football playoff running already. On top of that, they've already put themselves in a great position to where they get to now say they have multiple ranked wins on the season. They're a 2-point conversion away from beating Alabama. There's a lot to like about the direction of this team to where in the argument standpoint, when you look at resumes, when you look at scheduling, when you look at all the things, if chaos still occurs, South Carolina has a great position to jump on up. Again, they've been down in one game where they've looked out of the count. And it was the Ole Miss game where they were down by 14-0 because of a really bad fake punt in the opening drive. Besides that, they have been playing consistent football since that game.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you can deny that.
So if you say right now, just humor me, what are the chances that you think South Carolina can get in?
I mean, you'd have to tell me what happens across the rest of the sport.
Let's just say Miami loses today. Let's say SMU loses today. Ohio State already lost. That hurts their chances now, or at least puts them in a situation where nothing is guaranteed. And let's just say Texas A&M beats Texas.
Who wins the SEC?
Yeah, we'll say Georgia.
All right, so A&M's out.
Yeah, A&M's out.
Georgia would be in from the SEC. I think the ACC at that point would still only get one if all that chaos happened. Big 12 won. I mean, I think at that point, the Big 10, obviously, let's say Oregon wins it all. And Penn State, Indiana are all three probably in at that point if you include Oregon. Ohio State, 10-2. They're not going to play in Indy. Your lasting memory of them is a loss to a 7-5, just very, very average to below average Michigan team. I don't know. I mean, you just don't know. What does Notre Dame do against USC? I mean, that opens up another window for somebody as well. I mean, I think how this Iron Bowl looks. I mean, Alabama just made an explosive play and fumble. I mean, if that's down to the wire, I think that's got to be taken into account. I mean, Ole Miss didn't look great yesterday, but are you putting South Carolina in ahead of both those teams when South Carolina lost to both of them?
That's the point, is that it becomes a problem at this point.
See, again, if it's like when we were talking about when it was like a 2-3 weeks ago when it was like a Bama, Georgia, Tennessee conversation, it's like, well, all three of those teams went 1-1 against each other, you know? So like head to head, and I think Tennessee fans couldn't understand it. It's like, yeah, you beat Alabama, but like, you know, multiple team tie, head to head doesn't really mean as much. But I think when it's a 3-team and one of the teams is 0-2 against the other, I think that's got to be weighted somewhat heavily, right? I mean, it's the classic, why do we play the games at that point? I mean, in South Carolina, I think two things can be true. In the last half of the season, South Carolina's on fire, playing well. They come and found themselves offensively, give them credit. But I think when they're tied with two other teams in the same level, same conversation, they've lost to both of them. What does that mean? You know what I mean? I mean, what does it mean? I mean, I know how I feel about it, but I just don't know. I mean, if say South Carolina, I mean, again, we would have this conversation if they beat one of them because they beat 10-2, but say I don't know, these three teams were 9-3 and they went 1-1. The way South Carolina's playing right now, I think they'd have to be the first team in out of those three. But when you're 0-2 against them, I don't know. And I know it's early in the year, too.
You hate this because of, again, if Lenore Sellers doesn't go out or the Nicky Mann-Warrior interception counts, this is a moot point. Because even with those two losses, you're sitting at 10-2. And that guarantees you a spot just like it does for Tennessee at this point. But unfortunately, you have to deal with what is what it is. So here's what you do. I say it's about a 50-50 shot. I'm going to put my name out there and say 50% chance South Carolina gets into the playoff. But you got to be rooting for USC, the other USC. You got to be rooting for chaos in the SEC, whoever that may be. You got to be rooting for maybe an upset with Indiana. You got to be maybe rooting for an upset when it comes to Miami. You got to be rooting for Cal today with the backup quarterback and Chandler Rogers. You got to be rooting for all this. But if it does happen, keep in mind, we have seen chaos occur in the world of college football. It happened last week. It happened already last night, 8 overtimes. It happened when it came down to Tulane versus Memphis. Chaos can occur. Believe in the Cox. Believe that it's possible. Believe that it can happen. But know this. You did your job. And I'll tell you what, Dave, to close this thing on out before we go on over to our other broadcast, which, by the way, you should guys go check on out. I believe that this is the starting point for South Carolina to go on a run in 2025 deep into the postseason. The way that I felt last year about Ole Miss, with what this team was, with what this team's potential could be, I truly think that now we're going to see that type of performance move into 2025. But the job will be finished by Beamer and the boys. They're going to be in the playoff in 2025. I'm throwing it out there right now. Come back and bite me in the ass later on. I'm totally okay with it. But number one, if you do not believe that this is one of the top 12 teams in college football, shame on you. You have no idea what you're talking about. And number two, this is only the start. It's not the end of a strong season out in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, I'll have to see who they replace to guarantee a playoff spot next year. I don't even know who's on each other's roster. I think it's kind of too hard to say. You lose that many defensive linemen, it's tough to say you're an automatic playoff team.
Refuse to doubt it. Refuse to doubt it. I will be buying in, Dave Shumate. But like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social media.
South Carolina scout guy. He's there. That's even a Carolina fan. Bear agreeing with me. South Carolina's going to make the playoff next year. Take the portal hard. We lose a lot of good players.
Make sure that you like, rate, review, subscribe, follow us on the social media channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave. He is a great follow at Mock 10 Sports. Me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And real quickly, if you have not hit that ring notification, I highly recommend you do so because you'll get to keep up to date with every single time that we go live. Chaos has occurred in the world of college football today. Down goes Ohio State to Michigan. That's only the appetizer of what is going to be a 4-course of chaos. So make sure that you come back, make sure you hit that ring notification, and make sure that you follow us on all the socials. For Dave Shumate, I am Cole Thompson. Our state belongs to South Carolina. Peace.